many times in the past. And let's think about another major problem, which is the individual. Capitalism adores the individual, right? And the individual is what is ultimately revered by capitalism. And communism often is framed as doing away with individuality. We talked about this in previous lectures. But for Marx, the individual is understood and defined primarily as a bourgeois individual, as a member of the bourgeois. To be individual is to have ownership, is to have private property. Right? To be individuated is to have private property, is to be in the owner class. And this is Kantian to some extent, right? To be a rational, autonomous agent is to be an individual. And to be autonomous and to be an agent means to be in command of your own private property, to have the means of production, to not have your labor, the products of your labor, appropriated from you, right? To not be the means to someone else's end. And so the individual that is celebrated is the bourgeois individual. The working person, the individual in the working class, is not within capitalism, broadly speaking, right? In Marx's time, according to Marx's critique, we're sticking to that here for now. The working class individual, because they are alienated from the product of their labor, is not granted the same degree of individuality. They are cut off from what they produce, from that which would make them a human individual. And because they've already been commodified and thus objectified by being bought for a wage, they have reduced personhood and thus individuality, and as wage laborers are entirely replaceable and disposable. Replaceable meaning not singular, not individual in the way that we want that word to mean, in the way we think of it in our common sense use of it. So Marx writes, "You must therefore confess that by individual you mean no other person than the bourgeois, than the middle class owner of property. This person must indeed be swept out of the way and made impossible." If the common sense, even Kantian idea of individual that is touted by the, mainstream ideology is the individual that we defend when we defend capitalism, and is the evidence or the argument that we use to defend capitalism, then we are not, in fact, defending capitalism very persuasively, and we are defending capitalism with capitalism, right? We aren't defending what we might think we're defending, which is the unique value of a singular human being. We're defending an idea of individuality that is conditioned by the ideology of capital, which is defined primarily as the owner of property, right? Who is the individual that we worry about in our politics? We worry about the homeowner, the taxpayer, the right business owner, etc. All right. Well, I recommend that you keep going through these notes. We could have spent much longer on this, and I wish we could, but we will be discussing these ideas more as we go along. But I, in particular, would encourage you to look at the second half of the notes that are on Blackboard and which I sent to you. But we'll conclude as Marx does, right? That the only solution to this reign of the bourgeois is the unification of workers around the world and the overthrow of that bourgeois hegemony, the reappropriation of all products by the working class, the reappropriation of work by workers, and the destruction of class war and any division between oppressed and oppressor. So he says, the communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Social conditions, and we might hear echoed there also John Stuart Mill's idea of social arrangements, right? He goes on, let the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries, unite. All right, and that'll do it for our discussion of Marx. There are a couple of points that I would have liked to have gotten to in the manifesto, and I again encourage you to review the notes. We're going to be meeting by Zoom. I'm going to try and get this out tonight, but I will see you all soon. Hope you're all holding up all right. Until next time.